Special education in Ontario means many things, but generally refers to students assessed with some kind of exceptionality. How best to address that in the classroom is a critical issue for parents whose children have different learning needs, particularly during this election campaign. What do each of the parties have on offer? Let's find out. We welcome Michael Coteau. He is Minister for Children and Youth Services and the Liberal candidate for Don Valley East. Christine Elliott, the PC candidate for Newmarket Aurora. Peter Tabuns, the NDP candidate for Toronto Danforth. And Robert Kiley. He is the Green Party Deputy Leader and a candidate in Kingston and the Islands. And we are delighted to welcome you four around our table at TVO tonight for a timely discussion. I guess we'll go in order of precedence here in the standings of the last House. So Michael Coteau, that means you first. In your view, how well does the province currently serve students who have special educational needs?
I think that we've made some substantial gains in education over the last 15 years here in Ontario. We've increased graduation rates from 66% to 87%, and that includes students with special needs. But we know there's more work to be done, and that's why in our 2018 budget, we allocated $300 million more into special needs. That brings a total budget of $3 billion in public education across the province for special needs, because we know that we have 1 in 5 young people in this province that needs extra help and has some form of identified special need. And our government's committed to making sure that we eliminate wait lists so they can get the help that they need quickly.
So if we're doing a report card, A being fantastic, F being failure, where would you give yourself?
I would say that in anywhere, like if you look at international standards in regards to our education system, I know that we're always in the top 10. We're doing quite well when it comes to education. We're the #1 performance when it comes to academic performance in the country. Ontario's doing the best, but I think that there's a lot more work to be done. When it comes to special needs, we need to make sure that young people are getting the resources they need, and that's why we've made the commitment.
Is it a solid B?
I would say a B is fair.
B is fair. Okay. Christine Elliott, where are you on this?
I don't think the province is doing a good job with students with special needs at all. I think there are, first of all, it starts with the number of exceptionalities that aren't included. Students with fetal alcohol syndrome aren't included. Students with ADHD aren't included. So we're not catching all of the students that need that extra help. The other thing is that the funding is all tied together with special needs with students that are gifted as well. So they're considered exceptional, but you're not really concentrating on the students that really need that extra help. And I think that when you look at students with special needs, you need more educational assistance in the classroom. I think that's a big problem for both teachers as well as for parents, because they want their children to do well and have the help that they need. A lot of teachers are feeling extremely stressed and overburdened because they don't have that help in the classroom, so they don't feel that they're giving the students with special needs the care they need, or the other students. But I think the most tragic thing of all is when students with special needs finish school, there's sort of this view that there's not much that they can do. They're handed an application for Ontario Disability Support Program, and good luck. And that's when the worst things happen. It's like falling off the cliff. They don't have anything in their lives anymore, no work, no social recreational programs, nothing to look forward to, and that's where people are really finding that those behaviors are exacerbated, and people are sort of considered to be not worth anything. What we need to do is concentrate on everybody's abilities. Everyone has abilities, and we need to work on that throughout the entire school process so they have something to look forward to when they're finished.
The minister gives his government a solid B on this. What would you say?
I would say a D at this point. Yes. I think that some things are improving. The Ontario Autism Program is a step in the right direction. I think that's a positive thing, but otherwise I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Peter Tabuns, what would you say?
Steve, it's a very frustrating file. I deal with parents and I deal with teachers. Parents who say that they feel their kids in many cases are warehoused. I talk to teachers in classes where they don't, as Christine was saying, they don't have the educational assistance that they need. So in some cases where you have people with profound needs, they find their time spent entirely with that person and the other kids neglected. So at this point, I'd say many of the children in those classes don't get what they need. But you also have to look at the larger picture, the numbers. Many school boards in Ontario spend more on special education than they're funded for by the province because they have to. Others because of other pressures, are taking money out of special education to deal with buildings that are crumbling, other things that are needed just to keep the things operating on a day-to-day basis. So we've got the larger funding formula that isn't working for the system, that impacts the kids who need special education, and you have an inadequate funding of that special education to ensure that every kid realizes their full potential. If you have a system where at the end of the school process, kids are able to live independently, even better if they're able to go out and employ themselves, then you give them a much better life and you reduce the burden on society.
Are we doing that?
No, we're not.
Not at all or not enough?
Well, I'll be honest, I would say not enough, but again, talking to so many parents who just feel that their children are not going to be able to do well once they finish school.
What's the letter grade you would put?
D, I think, is fair.
D. Robert Kiley, to you. What do you say?
Well, as a former teacher, assessment and grading is one of my favorite things. So I'll give the Liberals a C-. And it would have been in the D category if it weren't for the recent announcement of $300 million for special education. But I would note that comes at an opportune time, right before the election. It's something that we wish, as Greens, would have been a priority for the government in their last 15 years during their mandate. So the Green Party of Ontario has 3 priority areas when it comes to special education. The first is ensuring that students have a safe and supportive environment in which to learn. Safe for themselves, safe for the educational workers in the classroom, and safe for their classmates. And we know that violence in the classroom is on an alarming rise. We hear that from teachers' unions, we hear that in consultations with people in our riding. I'm from Kingston, the Islands, and it's a concern that parents are having. It's a concern that even students are expressing. So we need to deal with that. The second is ensuring that we have funding for more and better supports for these students. And one of the ways that we've advocated for a long time to find money in education is by consolidating Ontario's school boards from 4 to 1 with provision for English and French language. And then
Hang on. I'm not going to let you get past that one that quickly. So the 4 to 1 means no more Catholic school system.
No more separate school system, Catholic school system, correct.
That is publicly funded.
Correct.
Or French system?
French within one school board, one public school board.
So a single governance system.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea is to save money on bureaucracy, on busing, on buildings, and find about $1 to $1.6 billion annually that we can reinvest into the classroom and give teachers and educational assistants
got it.
and specialists the support they need. And then finally, really quickly, we do need to fix the funding formula because we know, as mentioned, that with declining enrollment and the main factor being the number of students in a school board, that the funding isn't adequate. In Kingston and the Islands, we've lost about $1 million a year in the Limestone District School Board for the last 4 years, and we're asking teachers to do more with less, and that's not right.
Okay. You have heard a number of criticisms here. I'm happy to have you pick up on whichever one you want to tackle.
The best way you can judge a public education system is to look at what the results are. You know, the folks at the table paint a picture that public education is in some form of crisis and we're not doing well. When the Conservatives were in power in this province in 2003, they cut $1 billion out of education. We found that only 1 in 3 students in this province were actually graduating, so 66% graduation rate. We've increased that to 87%. We have more young people accessing post-secondary education. We've put in full-day kindergarten. Test scores are up. Internationally...
Okay, but that's the picture writ large. We're talking about special education here.
Young people with special needs are part of that success story as well. You know, Christine said that, you know, a person with special needs, you know, finishes and goes into, you know, gets ODSP. Like, I think that's an unfair assumption because there are thousands of young people I meet, you know, as a former school board trustee, as a person who grew up in the Domino's community, there were a lot of young people who had some form of special needs who are doing extremely well, you know, in life today. I think that it's a falsehood that, you know, young people are failing and that they're ending up, you know, on Ontario Works or some form of, you know, program in government. There's a lot happening in this province. And you have a Conservative leader. You know, when we talk about young people with special needs, a Conservative leader that was speaking to a father and told him, you know, I'm not even going to say what he said. I think we all know at the table what he said. But, you know, he said he didn't care about that specific issue.
It was an autism-related issue.
Autism. And, you know, we've been working so hard in this province. We came into government with a $15 billion budget for education. It's almost $25 billion today, 15 years later. You know, we've built thousands of schools. marks are getting better. You know, there's an optimism out there, but if you talk to the folks at the table, they'll paint a picture that Ontario's not doing well.
And in fairness, their job is, you know, not to puff you up, but in fact,
I understand that.
Their job is to oppose and their job is to find the criticism we're saying. But in fairness to him, a D suggests a totally bleak picture with very few success stories out there. Is that really an accurate indication of what's going on?
Yes, in special education it is. When you take a look at what's happening, the fact is that most parents with special needs children keep them in high school until they're 21 years of age because they know after that there's very little out there for them. Very few post-secondary opportunities except through the CICE program at community colleges, community integration through cooperative education. They don't have many work opportunities. There's a lot of myths out there about
But you said in your
what
last answer you wanted
employers
more
could do.
educational assistance in the classroom, and in
Yes.
their last budget they're providing for 500 more. So presumably you're in favor of that.
Absolutely, I'm in favor of that, but we need more than that because there's a lot of students with special needs in classroom, and for everyone to be successful, you need those assistants in there. But we were talking about what's the outcome. The outcome is that if you look at students on the autism spectrum, 58% of them end up living on ODSP. So it is a reality that that's what happens. And the parents are distraught about that because they know their children are going to live in poverty. And what happens often is when they finish school, they don't have any routine in their lives anymore. Often a parent has to quit their job if they're two parent working because somebody has to stay home with that young person. Often behaviors, if there's a behavioral problem, will be exacerbated, and then there's problems in the household too.
Okay, I
so we
appreciate-
need to do a lot more where there are really very few supports out there for people.
As I suggested, we understand that opposition politicians' job is to oppose, but we also want to hear, since we're in the middle of an election campaign, what your ideas are as well. Peter Tabbins, I'm going to go to you first on this because the NDP has suggested a new funding formula. How
Right.
might that work?
Well, first of all, I'll just note it was the Conservatives who brought in the funding formula, which everyone saw as inadequate. I think it was you.
That was 20 years ago, though, wasn't it?
Yes, but it's never been changed. It was maintained. I remember in opposition, the Liberals saying it was bad. I think it was you, Steve, who interviewed Mr. Rozansky in his analysis of the lack of funds in that. This government, the Liberals, have never actually gone back and rewritten that formula to ensure that it meets the needs of people in this province. We think that needs to happen.
So what would you do?
We intend to, after the election, appoint a panel for a public review, bring in all the stakeholders, students, teachers, trustees, and look at what we really need to do to build the funding from the ground up. And going back to spec ed, right now what we have is a numbers game. We, I think, have the needs based on a 2006 census. And then looking grossly at numbers. But as you're well aware, there are a broad range of abilities and disabilities in any group. We need to be looking at exactly what the abilities and disabilities are and then building from the ground up what it would take to have a program to maximize people's abilities and opportunities for the future.
You must have an idea, though, about how you would change the funding formula to ensure special education gets its appropriate share of the pie. I appreciate you want to consult, but what are you thinking?
Well, just as I said, we need to do that assessment of what's needed at the ground level. And then having determined what's needed and what's needed in terms of resources and supports, then build the formula to deal with that issue. If you don't go to the foundation, you can't actually have a system that works.
No, I hear you. Should the Liberal government, at some point, either in the 5 years that Kathleen Wynne was Premier or the 10 before that Dalton McGuinty was, have changed this funding formula that so many people seem not to like?
90% of the funding formula that we inherited from the Conservatives back in 2003 has changed somehow. 90% of that funding formula that we found. You can't increase the educational budget in this province by $10 billion. So going from $15 billion to $24.5 billion and not change the formula. Formulas are constantly reviewed. Every single year, different components are constantly reviewed. The NDP will say that they want to do this, they want to do that, but they're not going to tell you how they're going to get to that point. That's the big challenge with the NDP.
Well, you
just told you.
He just said,
Well, you take, for example, they're going to put a panel together, but tell me what within the funding formula specifically you have issue with.
Well, what you have now is a situation where, with relationship to spec ed, you don't actually assess what's needed. You say this is a big population. You don't talk about what the actual spectrum is of needs. so you don't address it properly. And if you don't do that, Michael, you can't correct it.
So tell me, in your platform as a government, if you did form government, what have you put in your platform that specifically speaks to young people with special needs? And I throw that out to all of the candidates here, because the Conservatives are talking about a 4% cut right across the system, which would result in about $1 billion being cut out of public education. And I don't believe the NDP has put any dollars connected back to student needs. In their platform, there's 2 pages on education. The previous election, there was 1 page. In 2011, there was nothing mentioned on public education. I don't think the NDP is in a position to bring forward a government that could actually do well with education, and we know exactly where the Conservatives will take us.
Let me get Peter to respond, and then we'll come to the other side of the table.
First of all, with regard to changes to the funding formula, I've dealt with your predecessors when I was the critic, Laurel Broughton, Liz Sandals. They were telling me constantly that the formula was being rewritten. But if you look at Hugh Mackenzie's report from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, he tears that apart. You didn't do that. You took this rusty old model with duct tape all over it, and you kept driving and occasionally putting a little paint on it. You didn't go to it and say, look, this formula doesn't reflect need in Ontario. It's resulting in schools being closed that shouldn't be closed because of the impact they have on communities. It's making sure that kids don't get the resources they need in school. It isn't reflecting today's reality.
What's the Green Party's view on whether $3 billion is adequate spending on special education?
We need more because we need specialists in the classroom to help identify at an earlier age students who have exceptionalities, students that have learning disabilities, and then to equip the teachers and the support staff within schools to be able to meet those needs.
So if we need more, how are you going to find the money?
Yeah, great. It's a good question. So I mentioned the $1 to $1.6 billion that could be found by consolidating the school boards in Ontario. Also, it's a matter of prioritization. So currently we spend about $25 million a year on standardized testing. For the last 10 years, our education critic, Matt Richter and Perry Samuskoka, has advocated for getting rid of standardized testing and using that money, about the equivalent of 800 EAs, to be invested back into the system.
How are you going to measure whether anybody's doing any good?
Well, it's a great question, and it begs another question, which is, what are we measuring? Do we only need to be measuring literacy and numeracy? Those are imperative for students' well-being. There's no question about that. But we need to think of education more holistically. We need to think about students' physical health, their mental health, which is an issue that needs to be addressed when we're talking about special education, making sure that those who have mental health concerns at a young age are receiving that support. We know that the Children Mental Health of Ontario have estimated that 5 out of 6 students who need mental health supports in schools are not getting it, and that is a huge problem.
Okay, let me go to Christine Elliott next. People may remember that when Patrick Brown was the leader, there was the so-called People's Guarantee. There was a convention held where I think 160 or some odd policy resolutions were passed. So there was something to run on. And then you changed leaders, as you may remember. As the person who got the most votes and won the most ridings, you may remember that that convention went a different way. And now you don't have a fully costed platform to present to people. So how are we to know, if you form government, what your plans are?
Well, we have come out with a number of significant policy platforms, but I think as far as special education is concerned, what you need to do is spend the money that you have in a better way. And I think that means government has to operate in a different way, because when you look at special education, you have to look at the child's life through their entire school years, as well as what are they going to do afterwards. So it's not just Ministry of Education, it's Ministry of Training Colleges and Universities, it is Ministry of Health, it's ComSoc, it's a bunch of ministries that need to get together and develop a plan as to how they're going to participate in this. Because it can't just be one ministry that is dealing with this, because the child grows up. There's other things that have to come into consideration. So you need to take a look at what does each ministry need to do at that step along the way for that child to support them, to make sure that they get the supports that they need.
But $3 billion, does that sound like an adequate amount of money to deal with all of the issues under this tent?
I think it is, yes.
You just want to spend it differently?
I think we need to spend it in a smart way. We need to spend it in a coordinated way with all of the ministries talking to each other, because they don't know. Ministries are siloed. Even within a ministry, there are silos. And that's why you don't get the best value for the money that you're spending.
Can I ask you about that? You're actually the only person here who's ever sat at the cabinet table, so you would know. I mean, you're the minister. You are still, even though the House is dissolved, you are still the minister responsible for children and youth services. But as you try in your efforts to solve some of the problems around all this, you do have to deal, as Ms. Elliott says, with community and social services, with Ministry of Health, with Ministry of Education, with Ministry of Advanced Education. Is the government, regardless of party stripe, just too siloed to be able to make enough progress on this?
Absolutely not. You know, when Mitzi Hunter was the Minister of Education, we worked constantly, for example, on the autism challenges that we had as a government to eliminate wait lists. I work with the new Minister of Education constantly to look for ways to make improvements. You know, what Christine's talking about is, you know, we've heard this before from Conservatives. We're going to find efficiencies in the system. And what ends up happening when they go looking for efficiencies, they end up with this being locked into an ideology that we're spending enough and we need to go in there and we need to find savings. And that's what ends up happening. Whereas the NDP, who are also very locked into ideology, think that you can just raise taxes in this province to find solutions to problems. So as Liberals, we try to find a balanced middle approach where we want to keep taxes stable in the province. We want to, you know, make sure that our programs are effective, and we want to invest in young people. With the Conservatives, you're going to see cuts in the system, and with the NDP, you're going to see personal income taxes increase and corporate income taxes increase.
Let me give each of you a chance to respond to that.
Well, I think the ideology for the Liberals is spend as much money as you can, whether you have it or you don't. And we've got a huge debt in this province right now that's well over $300 billion. It's $1 billion a month to pay just interest on that borrowed money. So we've got to get that under control, because otherwise it's going to be our children and our grandchildren that are going to be stuck with this huge debt, and they're not going to be able to have the same standard of life that we have.
Michael Coteau's point, though, is that when your leader, Doug Ford, says we're going to find 4 cents on the dollar, that doesn't sound like much, translates into $6 billion, and his concern is you're going to take it, some of it anyway, out of the classroom and out of the special education.
Absolutely not. No. No.
How do we know, though? That's the problem. How do we know that? We don't have a platform from the Conservatives. How do we know that? You know, how do we know that Doug Ford is not going to take money from the classroom? Where is the commitment for educational spending? Where are the, you know, where's the cost of what, you know, the cost of education in regards to a platform from the Progressive Conservatives? We don't see one.
Well, the commitment is that we want people to do well. We want businesses to do well in Ontario. So that starts with education. You can't, if you don't have an educated workforce.
No, it didn't start with education.
You're
it started
not going
with
to
tax
be able
cuts.
to be successful.
The first thing Doug Ford said, the first thing I can remember him saying as the leader is the first thing, we're back in business and we're going to lower corporate taxes. Like, imagine that as the first approach. Yeah, but we've done many things.
You've been corporate tax cutters. You guys are really Tories in a hurry.
We went through a global recession in this planet, on this the globe, and Ontario went through it. We invested in the economy. We made sure it was competitive. You want to raise personal and corporate
for the wealthiest people in this
taxes
province,
in this
and
province,
the most profitable
and
companies.
they want to cut it. We have to have a reasonable approach. I think with hyper-globalization, the way the world's changing, you need a government that's flexible, that has the ability to respond to the needs. They are so locked in ideology, I don't know how we get to where we need to be.
You made an original accusation against Peter Tabuns, and I want to give him a chance to be really clear about what it involves. You just said it a second ago, but you were both talking at the same time, so I'm not sure everybody heard it. In the NDP fully costed platform is a provision to raise income taxes and corporate taxes, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
You want to specify?
For people making over $220,000 a year, 1% tax increase. For those over $300,000 a year, 2%. Many people do not make numbers like that. We think it's a reasonable approach that the wealthiest in this community, in this society, pay more, and that the wealthiest corporations pay more. The
So you would raise the corporate tax too?
Yeah.
But not the small business corporate tax, interestingly enough.
No. Small businesses are, I think, in a much tougher position. We think where the money is, where people can afford it, is at the very top.
So let me ask Michael, we're getting a bit off the path here, but since you've raised it, I want to just finish the circle here. The Liberal Party considers itself a progressive party.
Correct.
If the NDP want to raise income taxes on the top 2% of income earners in the province of Ontario and the largest corporations, why do you have a problem with that?
Here's the problem. So this morning, Andrew Horvath, the leader of the NDP, says they're going to put, for example, an EA in every classroom across the province.
Educational assistant.
Yeah, so here's the problem. We don't know what that's going to cost Ontarians. So we have an NDP government that's not really speaking to you know, the effect of these promises, like the costing out of these promises. So we don't know what to expect. So when they say they're actually going to raise taxes only for the 1% or people making over 200,000, you know, I don't believe that. I think we're going to see an approach where it goes to those who hit 150, then 100, because we don't know the costing of the platform. There's a lot of commitment. There's a lot of commitments, but there's not a costing to it.
Let me get over to our friend from the Green Party here, Robert Kiley. Go ahead. You wanted to add to
I would just like to jump in because I feel as if when we polarize people like this and say it's big spending versus not enough spending, we miss the fact that we can spend well and we can prioritize well. And to bring it back to special education, which this is all about, students in the classroom today are facing very real challenges, and the educators that are working with them tirelessly to meet their needs don't have the resources that they have. So instead of worrying about spending too much or not spending enough, let's talk about what we are spending and how we can spend that better. And I want to bring it back to standardized testing, because that's a very practical example of something that we don't need to do because there are no clear benefits for student well-being. Again, yes, numeracy and literacy are very important, and we should instruct in those ways and so on and so forth. But to make sure that the students are at the center, that we put the people who these policies are to affect and do affect at the middle of the conversation is very important to the Greens.
Okay, let me jump in here because we're literally down to our last few minutes, and I want to get each of you to weigh in on one thing in particular. You know right now that if you are a young person in this province, in a school, and you are diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit disorder. Boy, I'm bad on acronyms today. That doesn't mean you automatically are eligible for additional supports because it's not on that list of things like autism and so on and so forth that you get it. Question, should it be on the list? Should you be entitled as a public education student in the province to automatically be eligible for additional supports if you're diagnosed with ADHD? Christine Elliott.
Short answer, absolutely yes.
And you would do it?
Yes.
Michael Coteau.
I think that our $300 million commitment to bring in more social workers, psychiatrists, specialized teachers in this area speaks to making sure that people get the assessment, young people get the assessment faster, so the IPRCs and their individualized plan. So once we get people, young people into that setting where they're assessed, it'll be based on their specific needs. We've always said that young people should get exactly what they need in order to get to where they need to be. And that's why we've seen a 20-point jump in graduation rates in this province.
Okay, but that doesn't sound like a yes, though.
Well, I would say every individual, there's so many factors to take into account when making an assessment. I think once a young person sits down, you know, the family's with that specialist, they look at that child as a whole. There's an assessment that's made and the investment's made based on that. If you're sitting in a classroom and ADHD is affecting the way you learn, then obviously you need some support. So I would say that absolutely.
Should you automatically be eligible to get it as other ailments are?
Well, it depends on the assessment, right? Because you can have autism, but you may not necessarily need a specific type of, type of therapy, right? So it's based on the assessment and what best practices would suggest.
Okay. Peter Tabbins, what's the NDP's view?
If you have a condition or issue that prevents you from learning, then you need to get support. Right. I don't know why the Liberals have waited 15 years on this, frankly. We've had the deathbed conversion with the promised extra money for spec ed. Surprising things happen with elections, as you know, Steve. But we think that if the situation warrants support, support has to be there. We want to make sure that every child has an opportunity to succeed.
Greens.
Yes, with the benefit to the student receiving that support. Big caveat being, we need to ensure the funding is there to support the teachers to support their students. We can't just download more responsibility into the classroom and expect things will be hunky-dory. In fact, it gets bad when we do that, and we ask teachers to do more and more and more with less and less and less. So let's find savings in education. Let's consolidate the school boards and take that $1 billion and put it back into the classroom.
Christine Elliott, I'm not saying that you got out over your skis when you just made that commitment on behalf of the PC party, but you're not the Minister of Education yet. You weren't the education critic in the last Parliament. So how do you know you can make that commitment on behalf of your leader and your party?
I have talked to Doug Ford about the commitments that I think are really important. Special education and working with people with special needs is a huge priority for me. I've talked to him about it, and he's very supportive.
So you got a commitment out of him to include ADHD on the list of conditions under which students would be eligible automatically for additional supports.
We didn't get into that level of discussion, but there is a discussion about supporting people with special needs in school and in employment. So yes.
Okay.
Generally, yes.
Generally, yes.
Yes.
Because you know TV stations have a habit of playing back tape at,
Yes.
at inopportune moments.
Yes.
Okay. Good discussion. Thank you, everybody, for coming
Thanks,
into TVO tonight. Michael Coteau, the Liberal candidate, Don Valley East; Christine Elliott, the PC candidate, Newmarket Aurora; Peter Tabbins, the NDP candidate in Toronto Danforth; Robert Kiley. Thank you for coming all the way from Kingston, Ontario, Kingston and the Islands, to join us for our discussion today. He's running for the Greens in Eastern Ontario. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.